a 3-hour-long cabinet meeting yesterday, the secretaries went around the room saying how the boss was the single greatest president ever. He then went on about his right, that is Trump, to deploy the National Guard to cities and towns across the U.S.
I have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States.
Anything I want to do. Our next guest says Trump is leaning into authoritarianism with his National Guard stunt, the firing of the Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, and more. Senator Elizabeth Warren, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in, Senator. So what do you think of what the president said about the right to do anything he wants?
Look, this is really serious business. You know, like we do the eyeball roll and so on. But wow, I mean, they are moving forward on every front. And when he ran for office, let's take a deep breath. Remember, a year ago right now, August of last year. And what was Donald Trump talking about? He was not talking about invading American cities with the National Guard, right? He was not talking about taking over the Federal Reserve and destroying its independence. He was not talking about stopping cancer research or shaking down universities. What was he talking about? He said he would lower costs for American families on day one. Those were his words, on day one. And the very first interview he gave after he was elected, and they said, so why did you win? And he said, because I promised to lower costs for American families on day one. Okay, so now we're at, what is this, day 220? I keep marking them off, right? Day 220, the cost of groceries is up. The cost of utilities is up. The cost of housing is up. The cost of back-to-school shoes is up. The cost of backpacks is up. The cost of baby strollers is up. Costs are up, up, up. And Donald Trump wants to put on the Donald Trump show and not address the very thing he got elected to do. In fact, Donald Trump is driving up costs with his tariff policies, with his energy policies, and with the chaos that he's creating in this
What'd you
economy.
tell us about Union Station when you walked into the studio?
So I just saw a little bleep come across my phone that Donald Trump is now taking over Union Station in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's like they're deploying control and troops everywhere.
You know,
They're going to be the
Senator,
greeters when people get off the train?
Yeah,
Or what is the idea?
I'm not
Do
sure
we
what
know?
that is. Or are they going to just stand there with big guns?
I don't know.
You know, Senator, we started yesterday before the show fell apart asking people, what do you do when, as the, what's his name, Todd Lyons, the acting director of Vice, says we're going to flood the zone here. They're coming to Boston. Wu is obviously taking no crap from Mayor Wu, from Donald Trump. And we posed the question about, is it enough when they come to town that we didn't mention you, but Elizabeth Warren gives a speech critical of it. So does Mayor Wu. So does the governor. We all tweet about how horrible it is. And the tanks or the military vehicles roll in. Is the resistance enough of a resistance? It seems to be a rhetorical resistance. And that's about it as he marches on, taking over virtually everything.
So, look, we don't have as much power as we want, but that is not the same as having no power at all. So we got to use every smidgen of power we have right now. And part of it is very much the rhetorical power you talk about. And let me just say off to the side here, it ain't nothing to stand up and do those things. There's a big difference between people just bow down and say, gee, I'm really sorry, and people actually push back. And if you don't think that's so, watch how he has backed up. You know, that there are places where, well, maybe he's not going to fire the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Maybe he's not going to do that thing. Maybe he's not going to go into Illinois now without an invitation from the governor. So please don't pretend that's nothing, and don't pretend it's easy to do. You know, bless Mayor Wu for how she stands steady, and maybe she makes it look easy. But the truth is, it isn't, and it's a calculation. But let me do the second part. There's a whole lot more that is underneath that, you know, like the duck's feet that are paddling here. And that's the things like, no, I will not give you access to the data. No, I will not let you into my public schools. No, I will not. In other words, there are key points here. The part I think that Donald Trump is looking for is that the response turns even slightly violent, and that gives Donald Trump an excuse to bring in the troops. So it's got to stay, you got to keep this nonviolent. Violence is never the answer, but you got to use all the tools.
But if as compelling as your response is, Senator Warren, would you not say that the most recent poll, which shows 24% approval for your party, 56% disapproval, suggests that that response is not registering with the American people?
Look, it's tough out there, and I get it. I get it why people are frustrated. I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to say, here's the panoply of tools we've got. Let me show you the toolbox. Here's what's in the toolbox, and we're picking them up and we're using every piece of them. And by the way, we are also innovating as we go along. I just got to say, I don't know about you two, but I'm like really enjoying Gavin Newsom reminding us what those tweets that are coming out from Donald Trump really look like when somebody else does them. And I am doubly enjoying Fox News losing its shit over the fact that Gavin Newsom sounds like Donald Trump in his tweets, because Newsom is pushing back. He's pushing back. Who thought that California would be doing a redistricting proposal? But it is. And that is a meaningful pushback. Go, Gavin.
We're talking to Senator Elizabeth Warren.
One of the things one of the theories about the Democrats' travails has to do with the promising and not producing.
Yeah.
And I think of things, you have been a long time champion of better child care. You talked about it when you ran for president. We've been talking about child care now for about 50 years. And the sense is that I mean, no matter what you think of Trump, a lot has changed since he's been in office. A lot of it is illegal, we know that, but nonetheless, he's done something. And the Democrats have been talking about child care, parental leave, those kinds of things. Healthcare, obviously, with Obamacare. Biden did do some things. I'm not going to take that away from him with the environment, the CHIPS bill and stuff. But the sense that on the bread and butter, meat and potato issues, the Democrats talk and don't produce. That's the whole theory of that abundance book that's getting a lot of talk. What do you think?
So look, I think there's a lot of truth in the fact that the Democrats, I mean, those are the facts. You just can't ignore the facts. Here are the things we said we would fight for and that we have not produced on. And let's face it, there are differences within our own party around this. There are a lot of folks who think, boo, raise taxes on billionaires. I'm not so sure about that. Now, I think our party has shifted and come into better alignment. But if I can, Marjorie, let me just push back on one thing. You are right that Donald Trump has acted, but not on bread and butter issues.
Right.
Not
Correct.
on economic
Correct.
issues.
Yep.
What he's delivering on is social poison, right? He's delivering on the revenge tour. He is delivering on, we hate those other people and we're going to find a way to humiliate them and embarrass them and make their lives a living hell. That's what Donald Trump is delivering on. And I got to say, there are obviously some Americans who are saying, damn, it's about time. But boy, I don't think that's the majority of America. And on that one, I also think the poll numbers back me up, that they're saying, this is not what we had in mind.
Speaking of
Democrats don't like it, but neither do a lot
Speaking
of
of taxing
Republicans.
wealthy people at a higher rate, you go down to New York City to hang out with the Democratic nominee, the state
Mamdani.
senator Mamdani. And at least I haven't checked in the last few days. I was on vacation, but as far as I know, two fairly powerful Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who represent New York, have stayed away from him. I mean, they met with him, but I mean, what's up with this?
Look, I can only speak for myself. And I'm down in New York for Zohran Mamdani because he has a plan for childcare. And he says, I'm running because, and here's the key. He wants to make New York City affordable for working New Yorkers, not just for a handful of billionaires that want to treat it like their version of Disneyland, but for working people. And he says, I got to do this with childcare. I got to do this with groceries, right? And I got to do this with housing. And here are my plans to do that. And for me, that's what this whole business ought to be about. That's why I'm in politics. I want working families to have a better chance in this whole country. Mamdani wants to do it in New York City, and I want to help him.
So, Elizabeth Warren, can we talk to you as a former professor at Harvard University?
Yeah.
One, because we want you to explain something to us, as you would. We told you you're a pretty good teacher over there, including people have told us who weren't crazy about your politics. So, said you're pretty fine at that job. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to explain why we should care so much about Trump trying to take control of the Fed, what that means for real people. But before we do, what's your opinion of Harvard? Alan Garber, the president, got a lot of praise. I think he got a standing ovation at graduation because he's allegedly standing up. And then, just to pick one example, all of a sudden a Black Lives Matter banner that's been up at Harvard outside two professors' offices for ages is ordered to be taken down. And I think I speak for Marjorie. To borrow Tim Snyder's line, it sort of seems like anticipatory obedience at the same time that they're allegedly fighting. Is Harvard getting this thing right? I'm going to add to this question for a second. Ashish Jha was here yesterday, and he said Brown is doing what it's got to do. The week before, Lee Pelton, who just got the President's Award from Harvard a few months ago, Harvard's doing what it has to do. If that's the case, if all these universities are doing what they have to do, trying to cut deals, at the end of the day, Donald Trump has taken over higher education and destroyed academic freedom. So doesn't somebody have to just say no?
Yeah. Somebody has to say no.
Should it be Harvard?
Yes. It should be Harvard. Yes.
And are they...
Because if Harvard doesn't say no, it gets a whole lot harder for anybody else to say no. And understand what's happening here. It's just plain old shakedown. That's all this is about. This is not about anti-Semitism was kind of the undercolor
pretense,
that they
right.
went in, the pretense. Harvard has done its reports, its work on that, and says there are places they need to change and want to change and should change. And that's good. That's what Harvard should be doing. Donald Trump is engaged in the shakedown game. And he's engaged in it here. He's engaged in it with corporations. He's engaged in it in foreign countries. He's saying to foreign countries, hey, you want to be able to export your goods to the United States? You got to come bend the knee to me. I don't know.
So should Harvard give $1? He wants $500 million. Should they give him a nickel?
Look, I am not in the middle of the negotiations.
You talk to Garber?
I don't talk about private conversations.
Okay,
and
good.
I'm not in the middle of the negotiations. But I want to make it clear. This is a shakedown. And the problem we've got is that the President of the United States, we just, I think, kind of like never saw this in this country. When he decides to use all of the power of the federal government to come down on any law firm, on any college, on any corporation, on any country, damn, that is a lot of power he can bring to bear.
So, but wait a second. So if it's a shakedown, to quote you, you, how can you not answer the question about giving him any money? If you give into a shakedown,
say no.
So,
say no.
So they should give any money.
My view is say no.
No money from Harvard to...
Say no.
Fair enough.
Don't you wonder why Harvard, Columbia, all these schools, Brown, University of Indiana, whatever it is, haven't gotten together in a collective no? This is sort of odd.
Yeah. Well, look, we can play this throughout the economy, throughout the country. Look at these Republicans in the United States Senate. They know better. They know, we're going to go to it in a minute, I know, but they know, the Republicans who sit on the Senate Banking Committee, they understand the importance of the independence of the Fed.
What is the importance of the independence of the Fed?
Okay, let's do this for just one sec. Starting back in 1863, when we put our first, all right, banking regulators in place, we said, it's going to be a real problem if these guys are subject to politics. Because powerful interests, banks, will come in here and get rules that serve the banks and not the U.S. economy and the American people. So the whole idea was, how can we insulate? The Fed was built like with double, triple insulation, with the idea that the Fed would make decisions based on data. And they would do their best to say, okay, here's where interest rates need to be set. Here's where regulation needs to be set, based on the data in front of us. That is the whole idea behind it, and it is the international gold standard. The reason the Fed has such importance is that people, investors in the United States, but all around the world, say, when the Fed says here's what needs to be done on interest rates, there's a lot of confidence that, look, not that they got it 100% right, but that they got it as right as you could by looking at the data available. And what Donald Trump is doing right now is his very best to destroy that. Threatened to fire Jerome Powell, and you watch the markets tank, right, when that happened. Then goes after him and says, oh, I think that you're spending too much money on renovating the Federal Reserve
Did
building.
Powell humiliate him that day? Was that a great scene?
Wasn't that a great? Oh, man.
No,
Okay,
you got
go
the
on,
wrong
sorry.
I have to
building.
say,
Wrong
okay.
building.
5 years ago. Sorry.
I did play and replay that loop. But and then now going after Lisa Cook, you know, and so what's happening is you've got at this cabinet meeting yesterday, the importance of this cabinet meeting is that here are the heads of these different agencies, all of which have some power, some autonomy, some access to your personal information. And they're all in there just slobbering on Donald Trump and saying with words, with body language, with sounds, whatever you want, Mr. President, it would be my deepest honor to deliver. And that means in the shakedown, to bring it back to what's happening here, Donald Trump has a lot of power. Did you hear that a part of what happened yesterday is that different cabinet secretaries talked about different ways they could go after Harvard? Why? Because Harvard has what kind of nothing. It's because we want to go after them because that's them. We're us. We're the red shirts. Those are the blue shirts. Let's go see what we can do to destroy the enemy as they see it.
But getting back to the Fed and Lisa Cook for a second, though, I mean, he's got something. We don't know if she misrepresented on her mortgage, if she said she had two primary residents. She can only have, obviously, one primary resident. We also know that a court has adjudicated that Donald Trump inflated his own properties to cheat on his taxes. So he's already been adjudicated to have done what he's accusing.
What are you going to say? So if she goes, he goes? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I
You know,
mean,
now wait, are we talking about a trade here? Just want to know.
well, you know, there is a certain deliciousness to that picture. But on the other hand, you tell people, I mean, if she did misrepresent this or made a mistake, whatever she did, you could see where people could say, hey, you had this person that's supposed to be in charge at the governor of the Fed, big deal, and she did not tell the truth on her mortgages. That could
She
end
hasn't
up.
even been charged with
I
this.
know that, but we don't know what happened.
We don't.
And if we do not find out that that's what she did, that could end up being a winning issue for him.
Let's say two things here.
Okay.
First is, here's this guy sitting over at FHFA, right? These are the people, this was created after the mortgage crisis to make sure that these big banks, these mortgage companies didn't do, remember, liar's loans and all the crazy stuff that went on. And that's why we set this agency up. It also means that this agency has access to a whole bunch of information about every single person who's taken out a mortgage in this country that ran through there. So he takes, evidently, because this is his number 3. He's done this 3
Of
times
his
now.
enemies.
He
Adam
takes
Schiff,
Trump's
yep.
enemies list and tries to run it against his data. And
Letitia
then
James.
claims on, social media that here's what he's found. Fine. Let's have the Justice Department do the investigation. Let's find out. Because I just don't want people jumping ahead. Because now she's a person who has to go get a lawyer, has to go through all of this. We just can't assume what we don't know. But I want to do the second part. And that is, how about we follow the law about the Federal Reserve Bank? Right. And the law about the Federal Reserve Bank is that governors can be removed only for cause. And what is for cause? Cause is related to your work, which means if she had embezzled, if she had was inefficient in her job, if she was somehow crooked in her job, yes, she can be removed. But that is the narrow ambit by law. Now, if the Republicans want to change that law, they own the House, they own the Senate, and they own the White House. Let them come in and change the law. But until the law has been changed, Donald Trump doesn't get to come in and wave that magic scepter and say, I've decided the law is something else, and off with her head.
Okay, we're running short of time. We're going to have some good news before you disappear. You are working with Tim Scott, a big Trump fan, a Republican senator from South Carolina, on a housing thing that unanimously passed. Look at. I hope people are watching on. There she is, arms raised.
Yep.
Out of committee in a minute because it's all really. Can you tell us what this thing is
yes.
and why is there bipartisanship on this?
Okay, so start with, we got a housing problem here in Massachusetts. We're about 200,000 living places short of what we need, and we're not building them fast enough. And bless Maura Healey, she and Kim Driscoll have cobbled together what they can to try to increase housing. Michelle Wu is definitely doing that. I'm doing a meeting tomorrow with mayors around the Commonwealth, but we need more supply. Our problem is a supply problem, and it's not just a Massachusetts problem. It's every state in this country. It's urban, it's rural, it's housing for first-time home buyers, it's apartment housing, it's senior housing, it's housing for people with disabilities, housing for people who have no housing at all. We need more housing. So what we did is Tim Scott had a bill on a piece about opportunity zones in housing, and I said, why don't we see if we can build something out and get a lot of good ideas together and pass them in a bill. It's not like a single rifle shot. Think of this as a big meatball of ideas. And this one has new tools in it to bring down the cost of building new housing. Like it changes, for example, the EPA rules for building new housing and infill housing, which is kind of a challenge. You change those rules, you make it a little faster to get housing approved and up. It has changes in it on manufactured housing and makes it easier to do more off-site construction. It's got my own personal, that I got in here, the innovation fund that says if you're a town or city that is coming up with new ideas, we're not going to tell you how to do it, but if you are making changes that reduce the cost of building new housing units and you deliver on that, federal government will put some additional money on the table that you can then use to build an elementary school, to build more sewer connections. In other words, why this is so important is the federal government has really not had a role in housing other than doing mortgage financing and the little bit of public housing. And this is the first time that we have said, as of the Senate, we're only in the Senate right now, federal government has a role in expanding the access to housing.
Unbelievable. We'll talk more about it. Before you go,
Yeah,
we
we
have
only
the
have
most
20
important
seconds left.
topic.
Oh, absolutely.
No, the most important thing you can answer briefly. We know you spoke about Taylor Swift at your
Yes.
comments at Bridgewater State. Do you know yet what you're wearing to the wedding, or you don't know?
Oh, that's so exciting. I'm not there yet.
You're not there yet. You'll
yeah.
let us know what
I
you're
will.
wearing?
I totally
we appreciate
will.
it.
Okay.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank
So
you,
good to
Senator
see
Warren.
you.
Keep
We
us
have-
apprised. This housing thing we talk
It's
about a
exciting.
lot. Please keep us
Yeah.
apprised.
Oh,
and
I'm so
call
excited
in when you
about
can.
this.
We'd love to talk
Will
about it
do.
more. Be
Will
well.
do.
We've
Senator
been
Elizabeth
speaking
Warren.
with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. Senator Warren, thank you very much for taking the time to come in. Coming up after this quick break.